Everybody for coming to the thank you everyone for coming to the user management training, which is really us walking through looking at the admin application in iValua, the new application that's available to us. Wanted to thank you for your time coming in this morning. We are going to talk, like I said, the admin application and the policy and procedures related to using it. To date, we've mostly had some training that's been informal. Today is more of a formal training that's going to incorporate a real good drive overview of the application and then the policies and procedures related. Today's training is geared towards the account executive, but we had some folks that are interested in the admin application, so we have invited them to join us. As you saw on the invite, today is I put 2-hour training. It's not going to take us that long to go through the material and the demos, but what I wanted to do is absolutely make sure I had enough time to answer any questions that you have. So while we're going through here, if you want to take a piece of paper and write down your notes so that at the end, we will have plenty of time to comb through your notes. And then also I might be answering your question as I go through this training this morning. Also, just I will be referencing some documents I attached to the meeting invite. There were some problems opening those. Naughty Google, but I sent those as a separate email as well. And that's also easier for you to search for those documents a little bit later after the training. You have them in an email. Of course, my plan is to all of those documents is to publish them after we go live to the Report and Resource Center. In there under documents, as you know, we've got 2 sections, a DPS use only section that is more dedicated to more internal documents for DPS for the account executives. And then I have another section for agency security officers where I will publish some other documents as well. So these documents that I sent to you will be available after go live in the Report and Resource Center. So let's talk about what we're going to go through today. I want to talk about a little plan that we have. I want to talk about resources, walk you through what is not changing and what is changing. We're going to go through a demo. I've got some demos that we're going to do, and then some questions. So those are the different parts that we have in play. So let's move on to the plan, right? What are we getting? So we are, for user management, AEs and security officers who have user management today will have the admin tool after go live. So that is the plan. So what we're doing today, we'll be able to do in the new platform. On Thursday, I have scheduled a training session with the security officers who have user management, and it will be very similar to today's training session. That one will also be recorded. So that is the plan to roll out user management. Again, whoever has it today will have it in the new platform. So let's talk a little bit about user bulk load. We know now that bulk loads are now what they call ETLs. And so at go live, we will not have the ETLs to be able to do that process of what we're doing today. Today would upload users a large quantity through a bulk load. We're hoping in the new system we would be able to upload again in the ETL. We're not quite there. A couple little tweaks and we should be there. So that will be rolled out after go live. In the meantime, what we're going to do is create a JIRA ticket and attach an ETL file, and more information will be coming on the ticket and the file, but I just wanted to discuss the bulk load user process as we were talking about the plan. So that is something that you can use again when you're going to do bulk users. But you will also see what's really nice in this new admin user management tool. It's a lot faster and a lot easier than the current tool that we're using today. Less screens, the screens are a lot quicker. So it's a lot easier and a lot faster to create users. Just a little note about go live with what you should expect when you log in on May 2nd is that I will, the plan is currently as part of a conversion activity, I will be adding user management, the admin application to the account executives first, going in your account, adding it, and then I will also be adding it to the field users who have user management. So if you log in and it's early in the morning and you don't see it, please know that it is coming. And also you guys are first on my list to add user management. I want to talk about, we're talking about a plan and go live. I want to talk about some outstanding issues, just so you're aware. So right now in UAT, that's what we're looking at. I've got a in UAT, not conversion. So be mindful as the users are a little bit more interesting in UAT. That right now, CGI has one last fix to user management for the field users. The actual page on displaying today, they need to filter by, be able to filter by the organization. So the user admin only sees users that are in their organization or their organizations that have been set up, like DOC, that type of kind of spider web client. Another piece that we've got that we're working on, that's the reports. So the 1200 and 1001 will not be available when we go live. So what we're going to do is leverage, I'm going to show you some searching that we can do on this page, on the browse user page, and how we can export this data to Excel to be able to kind of recreate what we would have seen in these other reports. And then, so again, the outstanding, I kind of referenced this issue earlier, is some instructions for the ETL file to be able to create if you've got a large number of users you want to upload and you don't want to use this application, that you're able to do that. So those are kind of outstanding. I'm going to talk about those. So let's now talk about what are the resources for the admin application. And so we've got a lot of resources available. So right now, there's a user management asset that's similar to the other assets that you have seen. This asset is under final review by InfoPro, and we should have that out shortly. We also have the reference material that I mentioned, published under the agency security and DPS only use documents. The documents, you've seen those. I think there's about 11 or 12 that I've sent out to you, and those include the EVA security policy and standards. They have been updated. The changes, really, the big changes there are, first, there's a note about 90-day inactivity. So there's a process that security officers go through where they manually deactivate users as part of their quarterly audit. They look for users that haven't logged in the past 90 days, and then they do a manual deactivation. Either they do that, or as you know, they come in to you to process. What's really, really nice, awesome feature is that this new platform will automatically deactivate them at the 90-day mark. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then there's another change here. A big change is to the create new user, the e-form that's available in the email today. That is now, we're not going to have the e-form option. That is not going to convert into the new platform. However, I have created two types of documents. I sent you the Word, but I also have a PDF fillable document. that is for to be able to create, edit, and deactivate users. And we'll talk about that in a few details in a few minutes. And but those are really the big changes to the standards. So I've created these quick steps. I know you're familiar with the quick steps that are in there now. We have the create, the create, deactivate, and custodial care quick steps. Today we have the create, edit, and deactivate quick steps. Custodial care is going away, and so we don't need that. And we'll talk about what's replacing it in a moment. Under the edit, just to give you an idea, under the edit quick steps, I have put together just some instructions on how to do a general edit, how to do a mass edit, and then also you're editing basically an account now. There's an option if, so I'm sure many of you have run into where the user has gone out on holiday, they've not delegated their approval authority, and it puts us in a little bit of a pickle. Well, now, as the account executives and the agency security officers with the advanced level security designation can now go into a user's account and do that delegation, which is really great. We also in the edit instructions have what to do to make an account active after it has been deactivated in the two scenarios of either the 90-day deactivation or formal deactivation. So we have those quick steps available. Again, I've got the fillable PDF forms. And then I have approval profiles and definitions. And we're going to take a peek at these forms after as part of the demo. We also have internal profiles and definitions, Logi roles and definitions, and then account statuses. So these are the documents that I've put together to support the admin application and the EVA security program. As we know, we're moving into a new platform. There are changes. If there is something that you see a gap in this information, this reference or instructions, please send me an email and I'll make sure that either I get something created or that I tweak that documentation. I'm sure if you see it, folks out in the field or other AEs will have that same sort of input as well. So another resource that we have available, recorded training sessions, including today's session. And then we also had CGI come on site and do a little session with us as well. We also have a plan to add a learning journey in VIP for the admin application. Of course, you always have myself as a resource and Sherry with any questions that you have regarding the admin application or the EVA security program. And then what's also nice is when we go live on May 2nd, we will have CGI will be available on site. Let's make sure everybody, if you just want to take a moment, make sure you're muted. Thank you. So we've just talked about all the resources that are available during this time of transition and change. But let's talk about what we can kind of say, what's not changing, what's going to stay the same, what is going to continue moving forward that I'm doing today. So what's not changing are the responsibilities of the EVA security officer, the procurement director, EVA leads, and account executives. All the procedures that the standards spell out as far as the request to create or edit a user has to come from the procurement director. To deactivate, that can come from the security officer to the account executives in the basic level, because that can come, that's a little bit different because that usually comes from their HR department. But those procedures that we have in place today are continuing over. We still have the advanced level organizations. They're still going to manage their users while the basic level still requires your assistance. Again, the policies relating to creating, editing, deactivating user accounts that we're following today will follow over into the new platform. Also, what's not changing is that Logi roles. So we have talked about we're moving into a platform. You've heard lots of different changes, but the Logi, the roles are not going to change. So that's one thing that we're keeping consistent. Another thing that we're going to have to rely on heavily now is the user management log that we've set up, that we share access to in the V Drive, where we communicate changes that we've made for users. We're really going to have to kind of use that to log some changes to help us troubleshoot any issues. So we've got that going as well. So those are the things that are not changing. Let's talk about what is changing. So we've got some new terminology. Today we talk about a client or entity, new platform, we call that an organization. Today we use the word BSO, by sense or department. In the new platform, that's going to be a site. Approval roles in the email, those will now be approval profiles. And so what's going on is, this is really interesting. So the applications that we're used to have in the old platform, the applications and the Ariba roles, some of those, they've kind of transformed themselves, and they're now internal profiles. And we'll look at those in a minute, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. Also, there, as you can see here, we've got a type that says internal contact. That is what.
Anna, sorry, we can't see that screen.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see my screen?
I could see your iValuable screen. I didn't know if you were showing something else.
Yeah, here.
Okay, I couldn't see the.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
No, great question. Great question. So we've got, as you can see here, this internal contact that's displaying here. That's a buyer. And then we have a couple new statuses for accounts. Locked out, what we're doing today is now blocked. Deactivated is deleted. We also have a new concept of this Alt 0 sync, which is what we, it's a kind of another side bolt-on application that manages the users for iValuable. This is different than a single sign-on. That's another kind of connection, but all of the users are going into this Alt 0 sync. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we go into create users, but this is a new term and a new type of application technology that we're using. We also have, I've talked about custodial care is going away. I'm really excited about this. It was something that we were doing as a workaround because we did not have an option to access another user after they've departed their purchase orders or their quick quotes to do any type of change orders or receiving. So now we will have the reassignment of work. And so we can do POs, contracts, and sourcing projects. And that is going to be through a JIRA ticket. And there's going to be some more information regarding JIRA tickets, when you create them, and what information is needed, and what type of files you will attach. So that is coming. But today, we're truly looking at the admin application. Another thing that's also changing is that 90-day auto deactivation. We just talked about that before. It was a tedious manual process. Now it is automated, which is super exciting. Also talked about the e-form, no longer available. Now it's going to be, yes.
Are they getting any notifications prior to them getting deactivated at the 90-day level?
I believe so, but that's a really good question. I will double check on that one. I've got that as a note. I will triple check, but I believe that that was part of the design. But again, let me double check.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, so we just talked about the PDF form. And then also something that's changing just at go live is that CGI will be processing that mass user update. Let's talk about Ariba roles. So as we know, there's some changes to those, and we will see them here in user management. A couple things. First, the roles that pretty much start off with EVA, for example, the EVA crate requisition or the e-forms. Those roles will be converting, but they will not have permissions because these are really Ariba roles and Ariba permissions. So these are coming across, but they really won't be having any type of permission or responsibility or action. They're just kind of just coming as part of conversion. What's converting is also the Ariba approval roles. Now, those are coming over and those are used in the workflow. However, what they've done is for conversion is they have removed the client IDs from the roles. And this is number one, to reduce the number of roles. Currently, we have like 18,000. So they wanted to, CGI wanted to cut that down, make it a little bit more manageable. And so the way the tool works in the workflow is that it looks first at the client and then it looks at the role. So even though a role is repeated, you can use that because it's not going to fire unless the user has that client assignment in their org, under their org structure in their setup. And we're going to look at that when we create a new user. So just want to talk again about what's changing the reports. Talked about how we're going to go in here. We're going to look at this main screen. I'm going to show you how to export data to an Excel file. Another thing that's changing is, as you know, today we have the option as an admin to reset a password. This option, we will not have this at Go Live. Users should really have a good email address in their account. They should be able to reset it, receive instructions, and set a password. They really should be able to do that. If there's some reason that they're not able to do that, that will be done through a JIRA ticket, and CGI will be processing that. And again, that is going to more instructions on that JIRA ticket will be coming later. Again, we've got that ETL bulk load function replacing bulk load, and that's going to be available further down the road after Go Live. We have something really nice though. We've got a mass edit. So we can find users. We'll be able to mass edit, add additional or remove organizations, add or remove internal profiles. We also have the ability to copy users. So we do have some shortcuts in here that will make life a lot easier. So we may not even need what we would have used the bulk load file for previously. I do want to talk about templates. There is an option to use a template where you fill out a template, add the internal profiles or some other details for a user. However, once you complete the template and apply it to users, you're not able to customize the profiles on that user. So I think it's up to you if you want to use it, but you will, if you do use it, you've locked in the profiles for that user and it cannot be changed. So I think we want to think about using templates, maybe hold off and see what we can do with the other two options I just suggested. Another change is that all buyers will have access to Logi. So they will have access to the Report and Resource Center, the basic access that they have today to see the first Logis there, then they see the charts and graphs, then they will have access to the documents, and then also the reports tab. And then under the reports tab, all users will have access to kind of basic buyer reports, which there's a variety under there. So one other thing I want to point out, so when you come into EVA, you have a dashboard that's loaded. Folks with the admin dashboard will have an admin dashboard if they have an admin profile. And then field users who do not have that, or internal users, they will have a different dashboard. So I just want you to keep that in mind. If you're walking somebody through, maybe logging in, your dashboard is going to look different from there. So I just wanted to include that information in our training this morning. So now I've wrapped up what's not changing, what's changing. Let's go into the demo. That's really why we are here, right? So let's start off with this main overview page. So to get here, I came in from the dashboard, logged in, went to the dashboard. Now we're going down admin, browse users. And here we have a nice little landing page search page. And let's talk about up here, we have some options to conduct a search, including this little filter. Down here, we have our users. Let's talk about here some of the columns before I get started. We have the option to select a user by putting in a check in the checkbox. That enables the mass edit button. We have this ability to edit a user that's going into their account. We'll look at that in a minute. In UAT only, we have the ability to log in as this user to see what they're seeing. This will not be an option available in production for obvious security reasons. This is the user's name. This is the icon, as it says here, invite to log in. This is also a link you can click here and get some basic user information. This is the email address that's associated. You can see the buyer profiles, the internal profiles that are related, the login status. We've got 4 now. I've got a spreadsheet that discusses what each one is. We also have the commodity perimeter, excuse me on that one. You can see here, we've got them all enabled. As we go live, we will not be using this. So in production, these should all be empty. Then we have the Orga perimeter, which is really the client or the organization. This list here, you can also, for us internal folks, we can also look at suppliers. That's why there's a column for supplier, and type as well. We know internal contact for this list is a buyer. So just wanted to kind of point out what you're seeing here. Let's talk about some searches. As you can see here, it's going to set to active and limit to my organization. So I should just, as a field user, would just be able to see the ones that I've listed under my org, or if I have additional orgs under those orgs as well. So we have here, we can search. This keyword search applies to the contact, the username, and the email address. And then the actual user's first name, last name is what is applied here. We have type, internal contact, supplier, and internal. We're not going to talk about those because today we're looking at this for the user management of buyers side of the house. This is something for our vendor support. You can filter by these internal profiles. We're going to talk about these in a minute. There are more here than what we actually can grant access to, but you can filter out based on the type, of internal profile that the user has. And then we also have here, we have the supplier, and you can select that, but we're going to disregard. So if I fill out information in here, I can click search, we'll filter, but I can also do an additional filter, which controls this next level of filters. I'm going to click on that filter icon. And I mentioned earlier, this commodity we're not going to use, so just please disregard. We can use the login status, and we can use organization. For right now, we're not going to use the template search or the organization. So again, just active, the login status we can look at, and then the organization. As you can see here, I've got all kinds. It's actually listing out BSOs. So if I was looking for users under A194, I would select or input A194, and then I would select all the different BSOs to start to filter down to make a list. If I want to see all the users, then I would just go ahead and leave that blank. And this would give me anybody who's active or anybody who's been blocked or anybody who's been deactivated, their account has been deleted. So I can apply this search with this filter, and it will give me the folks that are that have access to these BSOs. So another thing that has changed, and we'll look at this a little bit more when we create, is that there was in the current system, there's a 1-to-1 ratio. One user account gets one client and has one BSO. What's amazing and what's really flexible is in this new platform, we have one account, endless clients, endless organizations, and endless BSOs that can be assigned for the user to create requisitions and other documents on the behalf of or for that other agency or site. So it's amazing. So this is one way to do a search on this list to get a list of users. Once you have a list, if you wanted to share this or look at a little bit more, you can see here scrolling down, there's 132 results. I can take this, click on the cog wheel, download table, browse users in Excel format, and click on the document. And it will load and it will give me some information that I can use to look at the users or provide a user list. So that's what we're going to use now until we can have some reports developed. So let's talk about some other features at the top. Let me get rid of this. By clicking on the screen, I was able to get rid of that. Let's go first to this create new user, because then Matt said it's going to make a little bit more sense. So this is really neat. As you can see here, look, the left-hand navigation, it kind of acts like a little wizard that we just are going to step through. A lot less little tabs, links than we have currently, which is amazing. So let's walk through this. Let's talk about, we've got save, save and close, save and new, and then the Alt0 sync at the top. We'll talk about these as we go through the process. So we're going to start, I'm going to start in this kind of left column, work my way down, then come back over and talk about this. So right now we have the login, that's the username. You're going to see automated. That is just kind of a placeholder until we save this record. And then once we save this record, the username will appear. So the username that when we create a new record will have the first initial of the first name, and then it will have 4 letters of the last name, the first 4, the last name, and then followed by however many digits are needed to make the username unique. Very similar to our current standard that we have today. So we're going to continue that over as part of conversion. Just to let you know, usernames will be converted over. So we will be using this username. I know that over time, as we've learned and we've created users in the new platform, we've used email addresses. That is something that will not be coming over. We will not be using email addresses. We will have that max 8-digit username. This authentication mode, it will always be single sign-on, SSO, which is confusing. We actually kind of have 2 different single sign-ons. We have one, which is this Alt0 that's managing all the users for the iValua platform. And then we have a separate one that is a single sign-on that we use so that when we come into the tool, if we want to bypass our entering in a username and password, we go through that single sign-on. Currently, that's available to everybody. If you've got that if you're on the COVID domain, or some of the universities and the community colleges have that available. So we just have kind of these two different levels. All you need to know, really, in a nutshell, the walk away is just leave the default. The items that I'm talking about today in the create, this information is on the create quick steps that I sent to you earlier today and are attached to the meeting invite. Excuse me. So let's scroll down. This field will be, this area will be blank upon create. We have nice little red asterisks to remind us of the mandatory information. If I wanted to put a title, I could select that. I'm going to bypass that and have my caps lock on. So I'm going to put in first name, last name, can be hyphenated. I'm going to put in my email address. One thing we've learned in UAT is that email addresses have to be unique. Buyer, vendor, supplier, they have to, the email address can only appear in the system once. So it really shouldn't be a issue as we move into prod, into production. However, when you create a user, I would go ahead and just search, make sure they don't already have an account as time goes on. So I'm just going to create a fake email address. Give me a second. And so that's my email. This internal identifier, those of you who are supporting now or who have supported the community colleges know that this field will be used for their 9-digit employee ID. So those are the only folks that will use this field. The position, this could be, you could put in whatever. This is free form field. If you'd like to put in the position, you can, not required. Expense note account, we are bypassing this. Status upon create is active. Then we have the phone number. Does not have an asterisk, but it should be. And I am putting in a phone number. You can put in extensions as well. It does not require a seller fax. And then this address, it's appearing here. There is a JIRA ticket to remove this. We do not manage the addresses at the user level. This is an activity of the users who have data management. So let's go and scroll over to the right here. We have the template. We discussed, probably going to hold off on using that for a little bit. And then we have the internal profiles, which I have put together a list of definitions for each one. I'll look at that once a restart, of course. But one thing we will do is give every user the employee internal profile. That's going to give the user the ability to really search in P2P and some other kind of basic level buyer functions. And then we start to upgrade their access with requisitioner and then buyer, basic buyer, and so on. But everybody should have this employee. It's going to be a standard moving forward. So I'm just going to create this user as an employee. Again, this is an internal profile. And so what we will do here is this last column, external profiles. This should go away when we create the buyers. We're not going to give them any of the supplier profiles. Those are externals. So as we see here, pretty simple setup, pretty much just the contact information and a couple other clicks. What I am going to do here now is I'm going to bypass user preferences. I'm going to go to this Orga perimeter. Now there's a JIRA ticket to have this kind of swapped out in the order. The reason I come in here is I'm going to set the organization or organizations, and then the preferences will filter under those, some of the addresses and things like that. So it just makes life a little bit easier. So what we're going to do in this area, we are only going to select organization hierarchy. We're just going to let the system default to geographical and legal. We're going to look at organizational. This is a menu tree. You can come in here if you know the branch and then the agency, you can come down and then you get down to the client level or the BSO site level here. So as you see, you drill down, you built this little tree. You could have also come in here and clicked and entered the A226 or the exact site name and conducted a search. But I just went, I drilled down on this tree. Now this tree has some little tips and tricks. You've got to really be careful in here. This is the area of real caution. There's another area as well, but this is where you want to make sure. Now, first, if you're going to, you want this BSO. Well, let's pick an active user BSO. This is the BSO that they want. They only want one. Remember, they can have access to all of their BSOs if they're allowed to create requisitions, and select that BSO or site. You can select in that manner. You can also select by clicking on, I know it's really tiny, but there is a finger here. You can click on that finger and it points and it selects to everything above or below it. One thing that we do as we move up here, actually, let me move that one. That one's not it. So one little quirk here is that we have to have a little check in the checkbox for every little branch in this tree. So it falls under the branch of commerce and trade and then EVA wide. So checkbox here, checkbox here, checkbox here, check, check, and then I can use only the finger down below to select those. I know it does, it's kind of a little bit different, but what this does is at this level, if I create contracts that are available EVA wide, then this user can see those contracts. If I create a contract only for commerce and trade, this user will now be able to see it. If I create Board of Accountancy contracts for just this one organization, then this user can see it. So that's why we put the check boxes in there. We do not want to click on the finger because then it will give access to everything under it. So just be careful when you're granting access to EVA wide, the branches, and then the organization client site level, that you are truly just giving them that access. And what you can do to check is there is a number right here. 8 is the value selected. So that's telling you, how many different levels you selected. If you see a high number, 100, 2000, whatever, you know that you need to back up and double check. So from here, I am going to, at this step, I'm going to click save. And this will save the work, which is nice. This is a nice new feature as well. And I am going to go into now user preferences. All right. And so here we've got a couple some little instructions. My preferences, these are some different things to set currency language. We're really going to bypass those. We're just going to keep what's in the system at this time. But this is now the approval profile approvers link is just the second area. You just want to make sure you've got your role names right. Your approval roles, which were, yes, even I get it. Approval profiles, which were approval roles. You make sure that you have those in here because let's look at some examples. Now you see 104 in here, but if I type buyer, we see that we have lots of different ones in here, and it's okay. If you select the wrong buyer, maybe this one belongs to Department of Social Services, and I really wanted to select this one that belongs to Department of General Services, you will not be pulled into the workflow because the workflow is first checking to make sure the org assignment that we just came from is being applied, and then it's filtering the approval roles. So even if you were to select the wrong one, you should know. Now, our data management training, we are going to go into the configure tab, and I will show you how you can find a list of all of the approval profiles that are in use for your organization. So this today, I'm just showing you how to search and apply. So you just search, as you can see here, it took any I typed in buyer, the results returned any profile that had the name buyer in it. So I can just select whatever I need to. You select it there. It's already kind of saved it. And you have a nice little list right there. If you need to delete them, you can come in and delete individually. Easy, easy, easy. So let's talk about this next one, which is going to be this main organization. This is actually BSO. So this is the one, the default that you're selecting when I create a requisition. This is the BSO that's going to default. The user can still click on in the requisition, the drop-down menu that will show all the BSOs that they have access to, and they can select. Delivery place, we're not going to use. Main commodity, we're not going to use as well. Ship to, again, this would be a, excuse me, this would be the ship to address, and you're going to have to type in the address. Excuse me, let me take a little sip of tea here. You're going to have to type in the addresses. The addresses are not quite filtering the way that they should be. So you're going to have to type in an address. Also, you can see that 5-digit ID is not, we're not using that primary key to match up. So it's much easier now to just type in an address and use that address. So, so that's the ship to and bill to. Again, these are both defaults. The user on the requisition can select another one. We have this delegation. We're not going to use that upon create. We're not going to use subscriptions either. The expenditure limit, if there's an approver, I will go ahead and do expenditure limit approver. And then I will type in the person's name. So obviously this is UAT. There's a bunch of different me in here, a lot of clones. This is where I put my clones. And then if I select an expenditure limit approver, just like today, I will need to put in an amount. And that's how you set the expenditure limit approver. Again, quick quote, we can set it here. And then the difference with the quick quote today, well, let me back up. The expenditure limit approver, today we could do a role or user. In the new platform, this is absolutely just going to be a user. Same thing with the quick quote approver, it's going to be a user. So we would select the user and there we are set for the expenditure limit approver. And then also if I need my quick quotes approved, again, we're not going to use subscription, linked users, we're not using, or approval escalation at go live. We are not going to use. So I now want to come in. I'm just going to click save to save what I have because we can now do that. It's a really great function that's been added. And so while that saves, a couple things we're not going to use. The commodity perimeter, we're not going to use. We're not going to use the cost centers or the programs. But look what we have here, Logi Access. What's really great is this is going to feel like home. This is going to be, this is the same as what we have, somewhat same as what we have today. As you come in here, there's some notes that by default, it's, as you can see here, it's selected the org unit, that main client that I have access to. The organization is EVA. We've got the entity access. So for those, for example, A701, which is a DOC we have here. We also have their roll up in here as well. We can grant access by just typing in that agency ID, and then I would be able to have access to run reports on those additional clients, just like we do today. Report output row limit 5K. That's great. That's what we give everybody today. That's what everybody will continue to do. This status, when we click save, the status will default to sync and valid. And let's see here. let's see this down below. Let me zoom this. There we go. So the standard roles here, these are the standard roles, the buyer landing page, standard access, our standard buyers. What we give folks today gives them access to Logi, the nice little charts and graphs, the reports and documents list, those two tabs, same thing. And then if they needed additional roles, mostly the scheduler, there are some other roles in here like the agency security reports, the security officer reports are in here as well. But to see the client level, I would type in A194. If I was going to get the scheduler admin, I would type that in, select that, and then there we go. So it's really going to be quite simple to add Logi. There is one little nuance for Logi, is that we're going to, while we're in this page, click Logi Access Sync. What this does is it's sending this information absolutely at the same time over to the Logi tables. If we don't do this, it will not send them over. It's a separate job. It's a separate job than the actual saving of the user records. So just make sure that you click on that button anytime you make an add or an edit. And I do have those in my instructions, so don't worry about if you forget it. The instructions will cover it. So now let's go into, I've gone down the tabs that I need to access. Let's now go into user control. I kind of like this kind of landing page, if you will. And one last save just to be sure. And then here, I'm going to do this Alt-0 sync, and it's going to send the information over to that third party kind of, or kind of bolt-on application. So now the user can log in, and we see here, look, last sync date, created, updated in Alt-0. So this user could log in right now if they wanted to. One thing that we can do here is we can go ahead. This is really such a wonderful feature. You can send them an email. This is the standard coming out right now that we have. It's basically saying, a password reset has, let's see, a password reset has been requested for your account. So we, looks like we may need to double check this, but it's going to let the user know that they have created an account has been created for them. Here's the information to log in, and we can just send the notification. When you're done, we can click close, and they are able to take the information. They're going to set a password to log in, and then they can log in. So that is the process on how to create a user.
Yana,
Yes.
okay, can you save your own template on there for the email?
No.
Or, so we would save it in Word and paste it in.
You can edit that email
Okay.
any way you see fit. Right now, we just have this basic one that's going out. But
Okay.
Good question.
Hey, Yana, what did you click on to for that email to come up?
The little key. This little
Oh, I
key.
see. Okay.
It's time. It's like a little tucked away. But that's what I clicked on to get that to pop up and to send that off. Great question. So let me go in first and do a quick little edit, and then show you how to delete, and then we can come back and do some questions. How's that? Is that good for those folks that have questions? Or do you want me to answer that now?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Just want to make sure I cover everything, and then we can dive into questions, and then I can give you a sneak peek at some of the resources. All right, because there's some other things that edit and deactivate will might answer. So let's go from there. It's just so what I'm going to do is save and close, and that brings me back out. I call this my admin landing page. So let's go ahead, and I found out that I'm going to search for a user because they are going to leave. So what I can do is, let's see, I will do this user. So let's pretend like this is a very specific user. I found the specific user. I've received the e-form, or the form rather, and I am processing the request. All I have to do is we are deleting, and it says, yes, you sure? We are going to delete a record. And so the delete is actually it's a physical delete. That means it's deleting it from the screens from what you're seeing, but it is not really deleting it from the system. So if then, because we know people return, right? And the standards talk about that. If the user comes back, oops, I did a lot of double clicking there. The user comes back, we can just make the account active. And so that's an easy way. That is the new deactivation. So we're keeping the emails, we're keeping the BSOs, we're keeping all this information. We are just coming in and deleting, which makes life so much easier. 2-second process, no custodial care. We just are going to gather if they need any of their purchase orders reassigned or any of their contracts or any of their sourcing projects. So really easy. Now let's go ahead. We're going to pick on the same user. I'm going to come in here. I did a little search. Remember to edit. I'm going to click on this edit. And what I can do is basically it's the same as we do today, but I wanted to point out one little area with the edit is that in user management today, we can see created, modified, and deleted any action. So this is our tracking, and then this is our last login information is here, and this is what we're used to having today. And then this information we have available on reports, but now we're just gonna, for a little bit, we're going to dive in. So if I wanted to make any changes to this account, I can just come into that little area. I could make that change whatever I needed to. I don't have to, like today, you have to go to a summary page. You can just click save and close and go ahead and make that edit. So that's really quite a lot easier. All of these, than today. So this really, today we would use a bulk load file, but really it's quicker now. We don't have to put that file, run the report, download the file, edit it, save it, upload, wait for it to run. We can come in here and some of these actions are just super, super quick. So let me just pop into resources just really quick. I'm not going to drive through each and every one of them. But what I want to do is just give you a little, if you haven't had a chance to look at what I sent you this morning, is just to give you a little sneak peek, and then we'll go into questions. Okay, so let me just pop in. I mentioned the profile. So again, I'm not going to read through these, but I just want to show you what I've put together. It gives you the profile, what it does, kind of who can assign it, any notes that are associated to it. I have gone ahead, let's see, and done the same thing for the P2P approval role, approval profiles. Gone in this role are just some things that I've snagged. Again, remember most of the EVA ones, starting off with EVA, they're going to convert, but their permissions have been kind of stripped. So really they're kind of dormant roles, if you will. I've put that together for you. Let's see. We also have, let's pop in the Logi. This is a spreadsheet that I worked myself and Anna Coy worked on together to give you kind of the full picture of reports, what they do, the roles associated. So we've got report numbers, the name, the role, kind of those little categories that we're used to seeing, short description of what it does, any notes related. The last two columns are kind of assignment, who gets it and who grants it. So we know that there's that, our technical document and report role. We know that that's super sensitive. And so that would be noted in here that goes to select users, and that that's granted by myself only. So this is built in a lot of information about reports, report roles, and who can have access and who grants it. So this is a nice little reference document that Anna and I put together. Let's see. I've got some stuff. The account statuses that I talked about. This is the status, what you need to do if it's blocked, deleted, disabled, what import means, all of that have put together. Please read that at your leisure. And then let's see. This is replacing the e-form. I have it right now as Word, and I've done some tweaks, so I'm going to update the PDF one. The PDF is a fillable document that can be sent now. It's back and forth via email, and it just covers all the fields that we went through. And I have one to the new user, the edit, and to deactivate a user. And then let's talk about the quick steps. Put together some quick steps, very similar format from what you're using today for putting together any action on a user account. I put in who, the procedures, and then all the steps. Of course, I've built in any questions, any of these forms can go to Eva Security, to myself. And then this is the kind of information, takes you field by field, what's required, what's optional, bypass any notes, got a little screenshot of that interesting little, the checks in that tree, and then it goes through. So this is what you can expect to see for the different actions of creating, editing, or deactivating a user. So I think I've kind of covered, obviously, the security standards. You've seen those. We've discussed what's been updated. But this is the kind of reference material. So with that being said, and I told you earlier, I built in a lot of time for question and answers because I wanted to make sure I was able to walk through whatever you may have. So let's go back to the tool and let's start off with questions.
This is Angel. Can I start?
Yes, Angel, you may go first.
Okay. Hopefully, if you're gonna answer these later, just let me know.
If I can't, I will research and I will follow up and I will send the answer out to the team. And I have a notepad here that I already started. So let's see what you have.
So the internal identifier is the same thing as the employee ID, correct?
Correct.
Is that label going to be changed, or is it always going to be
There's
internal
a year to
identifier?
have that change. That will not be changed prior to go live, though.
But it's sometime in the future will be.
Correct.
And again, these questions just based on my experience. We talked about the organizations, which is the same thing as the VSOs. Do we, or would you have the capability of deleting VSOs organizations?
So that will all be in the data management portion of that but I will answer at go live. That will be a CGI activity of deleting VSOs.
And with regards to creating roles, would we be able to do that?
That is going to be another data management conversation. And we are going to, we've got a few more conversations about exactly what's going to be covered and what we're doing, nailing that out, who's going to do what when we go live. But if we are going to have the account executives do that, we will cover that on the training that comes about on Monday.
Okay. And with regard to the addresses, you said you have to type. Do we have to type in the complete address, or is that
No, it was the type ahead. It was a type
okay.
ahead. As you saw, like 11:11, it started returning results. And then as I typed along, and then it filtered out, and I was able to select from a drop-down list.
With regard to the ELA, I'm assuming it triggers at the same way it did before. In other words, that's the first person to take a look at it.
So that would be a rule token. The expenditure limit approver is not always the first. It depends where that falls on the rule token for that organization.
Okay, so we would have to take a look at our organizations and make sure that they are where the people want them to be.
Correct.
With regard to ELAs, there's no role, so you can't assign the roles. You can assign several people. Can you assign several people as
No.
ELAs since you don't have the roles? The roles of the profiles for that?
It's 1-to-1 now.
1-to-1. Okay. So if it gets stuck in the approval role, it would just go ahead into the profile and change it.
So if it gets stuck, so what happens is if it gets stuck, we're going to first, if I go out on leave, I'm going to delegate my approval authority.
Mhm, mhm.
If I'm on leave and I need that done, the security officers and account executives can now delegate it.
Okay, so it'll be a.
So
will the
it's,
dele-
so
sorry.
by delegating it, then we can go ahead and they would have access to approve.
So delegating the entire procurement activity or requisition, whatever we're doing,
Yeah.
will allow the person who's being delegated to serve as an ELA, or are we delegating somehow the role?
No, it's the delegation. I'm sorry. I think I actually had that on my list of things
Okay.
to cover, but good question. Let's actually dive in here. So this was on my list. I apologize.
Mhm.
So delegation, we're going to, upon an edit, give my approval tasks to last name. Of course, there won't be 3. And then we put in the date. We select it from the calendar. And then save. Oh, this is just something with this record.
Okay.
But it would say, yeah, you did it. And then that would be available.
And that's something, again, that if the end user doesn't delegate this or do it, whatever, the even security officer and the account executive should be able to do this.
Correct. And it's on my instructions
Okay.
on how to edit an account.
This is a small point. Under Logi, it says other roles in or is it supposed to be other profiles? Is that going to be changed or?
So that's all cosmetic. There's a
Got it.
whole cosmetic function. Some of the, like the order of the tabs, there's a whole nother piece. We're just trying to get to go
Yeah.
live. This is where we are at go live.
Yeah, and that's fine. I was just wondering
yeah.
if it was going to be
Yeah,
changed.
absolutely. Nice and neat and tidy is the goal.
So currently, you could create a requisition on behalf of somebody else. If we do that and the person is deactivated, before we would have something saying, this is a deactivated user. And again, would the system not allow you to create the requisition, or would it tell you, listen, you can't do this because you're copying this on behalf of somebody who doesn't exist anymore? Do we have the capability?
That's it. So I'll test that.
Okay.
And I'll ask Sarah as well, because that's more of the email side of the house. But good question, because it's user status. What exactly fires?
Yeah.
So good question.
In the current ELA, we have several roles, and the instructions are if you assign this role, don't assign this one because there'll be a conflict. Do we know if there are any current role conflicts, or is that something we're going to find out as you go through?
So the major role conflict we have is always, it's really responsibility. So the security officer shouldn't be the lead, it shouldn't also be an EVA lead, right? We don't have the same person with that designation. That's really what it is, because another item here is that really no roles have permissions. So really the roles we have today are just a part of the workflow. They don't give anybody any permissions like they do today.
Okay. And then you just talked about the forms that are in you're going to create in PDF. And these are not going to be e-forms at all. We are expected to receive a PDF or Word document from the field to be able to process and change the profiles, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I got.
Okay. And one thing I wanted to add is that you know, there's no cutoff date on questions, right? Anything you guys have at any point in time, you keep moving on over to me to ask. So I just wanted to just stress that. So who's next? Who's next on the list?
Hey, Anna, this is Kelly. I have a few.
Okay, yay, Kelly, come on in.
So I would like to request, if possible, if you could add the AEs to the meeting on Thursday for those. I mean, I have to attend, but I think it would be helpful to hear like what the agency's questions are. So if you could add them to that Thursday meeting that you're having with the agency safety officers.
Will do.
Okay, the next question I have, I've looked at some of these documents that you sent us, and maybe I heard you incorrectly. But I thought you said that we were gonna still have to update the spreadsheet, but when I look through the quick guides and stuff, I don't see anything that says what we need to update. Is that something that's gonna come later?
That was an oversight and I do apologize. I will add that. These were also instructions I have for field. These instructions that we're sharing them. So they are included on the instructions are for the V drive are included on the designation plan for account executives, which I did not include, which was just an oversight, but I will get that out to you guys.
Okay. And then the only other question that I really have is around reassignment of work. And I just want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So when a user is deactivated, I'm assuming the process is a little different, because when I look at this, the instructions, it says that we need to create a JIRA ticket. And then it says, I'm assuming that we have to list all purchase orders, contracts, and sourcing project numbers. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if it's 100 contracts, there's no way that they can see contract.
So let's do it this way. So to be honest, I haven't seen the reassignment tool or the process. So I am just putting together just some high level, whatever you need to be reassigned, include. So if you said all active, inactive contracts, all, you know, include those. Purchase orders in a certain status, include those. You know, it's just giving that documentation of whatever is needed, just doing it, providing it at the time the user has been deleted. Now, of course, I'm hoping CGI gives some more information and about what they want on the JIRA tickets, and that would have been a piece that would have been included.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great, thank you.
And this is Kimberly. I have several questions.
Fantastic. Fire away, Kimberly.
Okay, just an observation when you showed us to send, once you created the user to send the invitation for them to log in. As of last week, that was not working because I tried to use that and the user never received an email.
Correct. That is the UAT and conversion emails are not going out right now.
Okay.
But great question, and a great communication for everybody during the training to hear as well.
Okay, so, and I'm trying to go in order, but I got, so if we delete a user, we do not have to like clear out the roles or anything like that any longer, correct? We just delete them.
I know it's almost like too good to be true, isn't it? Like, I'm like,
okay,
buy this car for $1 and you're like, is that true? It sounds too good to be true. I know, but that's what we're doing right now. If for some reason further down we learn something different, I will change the guidance. But right now, that is the guidance, and mainly it's because there's two different deletes tied to it. It's not like a delete, they're gone forever.
right.
It's just kind of removing them out of what we can see. So it's really amazing.
Okay, and on that same line, so if we delete, if we delete a user, does the system automatically put them in that deactivated user
Yeah.
site, or is that something we manually have to do, or is that going to go away?
So let's talk about that So let's talk about that BSO, the BSO site of deactivated users. In the old system, that was truly a workaround to pull them out of the workflow, to pull them off certain reports for like active users and different things for BSOs. We do not need that workaround in the new tool.
Awesome.
So, but that's a really good question, and that's a really great point.
Okay. So, but it will convert, that site will convert.
Yes, from conversion, from what I'm aware of in conversion, all the BSO
Okay.
sites are converting over. So we may, as time goes on, we may clean up. Some sites may go away, like the temp labor that we used for the ACP contracts, the deactivated users, the e-forms, right? So I suspect we'll do cleanup there as well as roles, right? I talked about ones that have kind of, no longer have permissions. So they don't really have any value anymore because they're not a part of the workflow.
Mhm.
So, there's tweaks coming.
Okay.
This is not the final vehicle. This is the go live vehicle.
Okay. And on the Logi, on the other roles, it appeared that they are agency specific, whereas some of the approval profiles are not. Is that correct?
Correct, because
Okay.
the approval profiles work different. The
Okay.
technology. So this is actually like a built on. This is not really the Evalua kind of
Okay.
structure. So correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned that the Eva Ariba roles will convert, but they have no permissions. Should we delete those from users?
I would leave. Let's let everything settle down. I'm sure we're going to have enough work to do, to be honest. At some point when we're ready to do, like I said, the cleanup on BSOs, on sites, on roles, we'll go ahead and we'll do that. Maybe that's something that we're able to do a JIRA ticket or I'm able to do, or some type of more of a mass update rather than these one-offs. But
Okay.
right now, let's just focus on, for go live, let's just make sure folks are converting with what they have today.
Okay.
Or as
And
close-
And then on the UAT, I know currently I think all of us as account executives, our user ID is our email. Are we going to get new UAT accounts that have like the automated username?
No. If
Okay,
you want to, yeah, UAT is just our sandbox.
right.
If you want
Okay.
to, if you want to go ahead and create a new user with that standard, you can go ahead
Okay.
because it's applied to UAT today. And then you need to delete and then click on that Alt 0
Yeah.
thing so that your email address updates in the Alt 0.
Right. I just didn't know if we were going to have to set up a new UAT account based on that guidance. That's great. And I think my last question is the documents that you sent us this morning by email. You referenced they're going to be in the report and resource center. And I didn't remember if you said at go live or not.
So I think I have talked, I have a plan. I have a meeting scheduled with Anna. We're talking about,
Okay.
if we add them today, are they really going to convert over?
Okay.
Or has that snapshot already been taken? So they might have, if they convert over today, then we can add them. I feel like that snapshot has already been taken. It
Okay.
was probably taken when we cut off data manage and user management to users. So I'm feeling like after go live, but the whole goal is for them to be available.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kimberly. Who's next?
Ms. Terry.
Hi, Terry. Good morning.
So I have a question about the new user request form. So I know that the state agencies do it one way and the localities have access through the website. how are the local governments going to request new access forms or new
They're gonna
access?
They're gonna do the same procedures they have today. This form is replacing the electronic form. So if you were using the electronic form, you're now using the Word or the PDF. If you were registering, using that online form that you do not have to log into EVA, that's that web form, then you continue to use that form.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all, Terry? Okay, next, who do we have?
I'll go, Yana.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to fall more under data management. So if you're going to cover this next Monday, that's fine.
Okay.
Where can we see the BSO or now organization workflow?
And so that's going to be in the data management.
Okay, all right.
That's going to be, and I plan on covering the sites and the organizations
And
different
you'll go
things.
over the kind of relationship between the agency profile and the profile that says buyer and I was poking around last week. The profile that says buyer and then the agency. I'm zoning on can you click on, I guess, user control? I think it's under.
So yeah,
No, it's under org perimeter. So between the internal profile and under org perimeter and the approval profiles, you're going to go over that next week too.
Well, this is okay. So this is an approval. I'll go over that right now. This
Okay.
is an approval. This is what we used to call approval role. So when you created a requisition and you went into the approval tab and you saw that there was a name and a hover over and it said, this person approves for this reason. That's what this is. This is the old school approval role that enters into the workflow. This, even though it's got the same name, what we've done is in here, for example, user management, right? This is an application access. Requisitioner, that's going to give the user the ability. What we've done is that permission to create a requisition, we've taken that permission and then a little bit of the application, and we've taken those two and bundled it into this internal profile. So instead of you giving access to specific applications or Ariba roles that had permissions associated, we've gone ahead and it's kind of bundled them into a standard.
Okay.
If that helps a little bit. So this buyer here is not connected to that buyer. We're just repeating the word, the terminology.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, and are the sorry, what were the agency profiles? Is that what they're calling them now? Where the old approval roles, are they still linked to a specific? Is it just they're linked to the agency, or are they linked to a specific organization? So, for instance, if I've got a sub organization under an agency, right? So I've got the agency at the top, and then I've got like the so like 104 SAA, that's only going to affect people who do a requisition under the organization 104 SAA.
Correct.
Okay.
It's tied to the organization or the client. This is not down to the site or BSO specific. When we go over data management, this will be a little bit clearer because you will see that. So for example, when you watch me add like this role and I select the client that it belongs to, you'll see it done at the client level and not the BSO. So it will make more sense.
Okay.
Good question. Good question. What other questions do we have?
Hey, Yana, this is Danielle. How are you?
Hi, Danielle. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I have a question. I noticed when you the deleted user that you made active from the browse users page, I
Uh-huh.
saw where in the Augur perimeter column, it still was in the deactivated user site. Shouldn't that have been updated once you made them active?
So so good question. So right now, folks have access. I gave this user access to all the org perimeter, all the sites.
Mhm.
So they have access and they're not assigned to a specific site. So this user had, she, I forget who it was, me, I guess. They have access to all sites. So we're no longer putting a user in a specific BSO or a site.
Okay.
So let's go back here. So here, let's have this open up. So for example, let's see, I'm just going to follow the path here. So here I could give this user access to all of these.
Mhm.
And so if they're active or deactivated, it doesn't really matter. It is just the access to buy on the behalf of. Now, we probably don't want to give them access to deactivated. It won't come over in conversion. When we get grant access, we're giving them granting access on where they should be able to create requisitions. So they should really only have access to this. And then the deactivated user BSO does not come into the play at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just access. It's not. So now we file users and we give them that 1-to-1 ratio BSO site to user. So we had to keep flipping the BSO. And then we had to put them in that BSO because we had to put them in buckets. Because if we didn't put them in buckets, this Ariba wasn't taking them out of the workflow or on certain reports. So we had to do all these workarounds that we had built in. Today, because the Value platform allows us to do a logical delete rather than a physical delete, we're able to do that simple, quick step there.
Okay. Thank you, Yana.
Yeah, anytime. Good question. Good question.
Hey, Anna, it's Kimberly again.
Yes, ma'am.
So did I just hear you say, or maybe I misunderstood, that we are not signing users to specific sites anymore? We're giving them all sites?
No.
Okay.
User,
Okay.
the user, so for example, let me pick another one. The user in that example had access to all. I was finding.
Okay.
There may be, so they had access to all. So when she looked at the record, she said, well, an active user is still deactivated.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I just said they had, but really the reality is converted users, converted active users will only have access to the BSO that they have today. And then they have, it depends, the spider web clients are a little bit different. The DOCs, right? Maybe some of the community colleges, they'll have access to
Multiple
additional
sites. Yeah.
organization, multiple sites, multiple orgs. But in general, you'll only have access to probably the BSO you have today, and then maybe some others, right? So, but yes,
Okay.
the focus on the deactivated BSO site is taken off because of the Value allows us to do things.
All right. So
differently.
you were just explaining that specific user in regards to Daniel's question. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Remember, the key to this is that each user gets least privilege. It's what they exactly need to do their job. If they do not need to create requisitions, like for me, if I was gonna buy for DGS, right? You're not gonna give me access to all BSOs because you don't want me buying for labs, right? I just need the A194 customer service because that's what I'm going to create, buy my phone stands or whatever. That's the only BSO that I need. I don't need to create requisitions on the behalf of all of them. this setup now is allowing us to be more flexible, and it's allowing us to no longer have to create multiple usernames so that either one, that workflow fires in, or number two, I'd have to create on the behalf of, so the workflow fires, right? It's more flexible, but the assignment really doesn't change, other than when we deactivate a user, we're not going in and making all these changes. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Do we have some more questions? So we've got 25 more minutes. Please, please, please. I scheduled this big lot of time, this big bucket here, so that I could answer questions. Just, fire away, even if you think it's something that we're going to cover next Monday, or, or you don't want to get on the in front of everybody. Just ask a question. You've got me for another 25 minutes.
So just to be clear on that thing about on behalf of now. So let's say I had an office manager who serves 2 different units. So right now in the current EVA, she'd be assigned to one BSO, and she would do a requisition on behalf of another user. But now we would give her access to 2 different organizations, and she could just switch and pick the organization that she was doing. It's not user on behalf of anymore. It's organization. Is that correct?
It could be.
It could be.
So
You can
we're
still
not. So this is a tool, right? So they have to tell you if it really needs to be on the behalf of somebody else, or if this user can now they have the power to be able to create the requisition, select the other org, and have that workflow fire.
Okay.
So if I'm truly buying, I'm buying lamps for the billing department, right? And I'm, and that's the process. Then I can now, on the requisition, I can select for the billing department. I don't have to kind of do the workaround on the behalf of, but maybe I report to you and you are just like, I need you to enter all these on my behalf.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so that there's not going to be a standard there. It's really, we've added this functionality, and the procurement director is really going to have to say, as we move down, or they're going to have to say what they want their users to do.
Okay.
What their
Yeah,
buyers.
I think I get it, because I think I got it.
It's
Thanks.
hard because we've been using that 1-to-1 ratio for so long that now we have to say, no, it's 1 to many. It's 1 to many. So in DOC, right, now the new platform provides me with the functionality where I can create a requisition based on the headquarters or any one of the prisons if my setup allows.
Right.
So we just have to keep that in mind. You'll get that. It's just, that's our new thinking, no longer 1-to-1.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's next?
Deanna,
Yes.
hi, this is Mary.
Mary.
Hey, I did have a question last week from one of the colleges that wanted to know, they said that they need their folks to be able to see everything in all of the sites because they use that for reports, etc. But that would also give them the ability, though, to do requisitions. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So there's a difference between, so when we talked about it last week, you were saying in that one-off scenario for testing. And so I do know that there is a JIRA ticket out there related to this. I'd have to look and see, related to that. Currently, if I were to look for a requisition, I can query for anything in my client or organization, right? And that's how it should be in the new platform. Our workaround for UAT was to be able to, for them for testing purposes, was to give them access to all of the different sites so that they could search. Because the way it came over and I value the way it was initially set up. The view was a 1-to-1 ratio. You could only see whatever sites you had access to. And so I just need to look at the JIRA ticket to see the resolution of that search.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm just making some note. I've got, while we're talking, I know you don't see me typing on the screen, but I have a large piece of paper here, sheet of paper, and I'm making notes. I know I got some IOUs out here. And who do we have now after Mary? 20 minutes. 20
Anna,
minutes.
this is Jan.
Hey, Jan.
This may overlap with data management, but with access to the technical reports and technical information, we had to have a signed non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of roles that were assigned to users, either when they were set up or if they had to be updated later. Since permissions are different, how are we separating what they have access to?
So that's a really good question, Jan. And so what happens is the roles are different. The Ariba, kind of the workflow roles. But as you saw, Logi is kind of this hybrid built on thing. I don't know if I really understand it, but the roles, they're still roles. So, and we still have the same guidance in place, and the assignments, the granted, and the notes, that's still the same. So it's going to function the same as it is today. So I hope that helps. It's still the same procedure.
So there's a difference between assigning buyer reports and there's another assignment of different reports.
No, so let's go look at Logi. So this procedure is still that the agency security officers are not allowed to assign that role. It has to come over to myself to assign it. And the person who needs access to the art technical has to complete the form that they receive from your office. So
Okay.
it's the same procedure. It's just a different tool.
Okay.
Yep, we're still monitoring that and same procedure, same, it's just a little bit different. The application looks different, but same procedures are in place.
Yeah, it's Kimberly. This sounds like a dumb question, but I'm guessing that these forms, like the new user form, the edit form, will be available in the Report and Resource Center.
Yes, they'll
Okay.
be available, but that's a great question.
Okay,
They'll
thank
be
you.
available there, and they're going to be available as well in the standards, the Word format, and then the fillable PDF you can pop them off the documents list for agency security officers. Good question. Do we have another question? We've got 17 minutes. This is your time. Ask questions. I can do live demos. Somebody's got to have a question. Or are you saving them for data management? Saving them for data management. Okay. So, all right. Well, so that wraps up. I know I've got some IOUs out here for Kelly and Mary and a little test as well. And so I've got some IOUs here, but again, the message that I wanted to send was absolutely any questions. We've got resources for you guys, either paper copies or folks that you can ask questions. So just know you have support with this application and also with the EVA security, the policy, and the standards. So any questions, just send me an email and I'll be happy to either answer it in the email, or if we need to get together and do a one-off kind of little walkthrough like we're doing now, I'm available for that as well. So thank you for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. and look forward to working with you guys in it. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Yana.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Yana.
Thanks. Thank you.